All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. It is, well, my computer says it's 1 minute till noon. Other devices say noon exactly. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to move through this early stuff really quickly. We've got a very detailed topic to try to get through in 20 minutes, so I'm not going to waste as much. I'm going to waste as little time as possible on these earlier things that we discussed. We're here to talk about the Chart of Accounts Wizard. This is being video recorded, so the video of this will be available on our website. We actually already have one on the Chart of Accounts Wizard from an earlier version already on our website. You can revisit that. I'm not sure if we'll repost this one or not, but it's essentially covering the same topic. We're going to go till 20 minutes after. I'm going to try to get through this material as quickly as we can. It may go a minute or two longer. I apologize in advance if that's the case. Stick around if you have questions. I'll certainly be happy to answer those if I can during the webinar event. Type those into the questions portion of the webinar to me. I'll do my best to keep an eye on them. If not, I'll certainly be happy to answer them at the end. We're using A101 pages 4 through 23 as the basis for our, from the workbooks as the basis for our webinar event today. If you have that, certainly that's what I'm using as the basis for it. If you have that A101 workbook, you should be able to follow right along. If not, you can certainly purchase it from the website, churchwindows.com, and go to the workbooks page to obtain or purchase that. Let's go right on in. So basically, what the first couple things we need to make clear about this is I'm not going through anything with regards to designing your chart of accounts, to anything about fund theory, in terms of, the concept of fund accounting, what have you. We are literally just looking at the chart of accounts wizard. Certainly if you have questions about, how the chart of accounts is constructed or, fund theory or things like that, again, we have documentation on our website that shows that or already details that. But again, we've got basically like 19 pages to cover in 20 minutes. So we've got a whole lot to try to kind of pound through here as quickly with as much detail as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. On page 4, it says using the chart of accounts wizard to enter your chart of accounts. Everybody gets this, when they're setting up the chart of accounts for the very first time. And so the first thing that it does when we click on that is when it opens up the step 1 of our wizard it's saying please enter the month and year that starts your accounting year right here. So then it defaults to January of the year that our computer clock is down here in the bottom right corner. So if you're since we're in 2017, it's wanting to now default to January of 2017. If your church works or is working on a fiscal year, you can by all means set that. We can set it to start August or September 1st of 2017 if you're wanting to work with accounting on a fiscal profile or fiscal year as opposed to calendar year. But for the purposes of our webinar, we're going to go ahead and leave it as calendar. That's what most churches will work on. But if I wanted to start it as of, say, January of 2018, I can simply just change the year right here and click my set accounting year. Okay? And we'll go ahead and do that. Here we are in the end of September. Let's assume or pretend that we're, developing or building and constructing our chart of accounts for January of 2018. In anticipation of implementing that as the first of the year. Then we would go down to the bottom and click this button down here at the bottom labeled Set Accounting Year. Okay? When we click on that, it pops up and says, with its dialog box, ask me to confirm. This will create an accounting year starting 1/1 of 2018, ending on December 31st of 18. Is this correct? We would simply click yes. I can make it 17, but we're going to go ahead and make it 18. Then the next window that pops up asks us if we're going to be using account numbers. So a lot of folks are unaware that account numbers are optional in the Church Windows accounting system. Now while we strongly recommend using account numbers, it offers a greater level of reporting flexibility. If we don't use account numbers, then we have to be very, very specific in terms of our account names, and the accounts will always list on our reports, since account numbers aren't there in our reports and in our subtotals, the accounts would sort alphabetically. So just again, you don't have to use account numbers. However, we strongly recommend that you do. We're going to say yes to this, again, for the purposes of our webinar. So when we say yes, it pops up and says, how many numbers and what kind of placeholders do you want in your account numbers? Now, before we move on to this, if your church decides initially to not use account numbers, and then you want to implement them, you can certainly add in and begin using account numbers at any point, or vice versa. If you want to disable using account numbers and only use account names, you can also disable that at any point, even after transactions have been entered or after the chart of accounts has been entered and set up, what have you. The system is that flexible that option or choice can be changed. So right here, it shows us on our current structure page here. Here's what our current structure is. Pound dot pound 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 dot pound 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 shows, one digit separated by a decimal, then 3 digits, decimal, 3 digits again. The system supports up to 12 digits with 11 placeholders. It's an awful lot of account numbers. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you want your account numbers to be. For the purposes of our webinar today, we're going to go ahead and make this just a 6-digit structure with one separator in the middle. So notice when I change that, it does change the example below it. Again, if this is something you want to change your account number structure after you've set up your chart of accounts, the software is flexible again enough to support that. You still want to provide as much detail as you can in the account names as possible, but the account numbers certainly are unique. Once we set this account number structure, every account number in the chart of accounts is going to require us having the same number of digits. So every account number when set up will have 3 digits, decimal, 3 digits in them. There is no workaround or deviation from this, folks. That's simply how the system is hard-coded, okay? So there's no way to add dots, single digits for substructures. You can still have sub-accounts, but all account numbers will be the same. Once we've decided or settled on our initial account number structure, like we did before at the bottom, you're going to click the button at the bottom that says Use this structure. And it doesn't pop up with a dialog box prompting us then to save that, again, because it can always be changed. And then it moves on to basically the first window of our chart of accounts screen, where we're now actually physically adding accounts to the chart of accounts itself. So on page 7 of our workbook, it talks about designing your chart of accounts. This really can help you certainly with regards to setting up your chart of accounts, perhaps that in conjunction with the chart of accounts, sample chart of accounts we have on our website. If you're kind of struggling with that, there are resources available to you. The account numbers in church windows are always firm. In this case, accounts that start with the number 1 are always going to be assets. Those that start with 2 are liabilities. 3 are funds, 4 are income, and 5 are expenses. Again, that cannot be changed. That's hard-coded into the church window software. This is not uncommon for accounting systems that they would identify, the type of an account is always the leading digit on that. And so church windows is no different regarding that. And again, there is no option to change it. However, those leading digits will certainly tell me as a support technician who's supporting you on a support call, if you call me, what kind of an account we're dealing with. So that's, again, personally why I like them, in addition to the various sort options we have for our reports by number or by account name. But 1 through 5, assets through expenses, is hard-coded in the software. So the very first window that it's opening up here, we're on bottom of page 8 here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on those other pages, folks. We're already, kind of quickly going through time here really fast. Is entering the chart of accounts, starting with funds and their associated accounts. So the first thing that it's asking us here is setting up main funds. Let me point that out here, okay, right here. Setting up main funds. What's the first fund we're entering? And we'll talk about fund balance and account numbers here in just a moment. But virtually every church has a general operating fund. So we're going to call this general fund. And then when we tab down, notice it adds the word balance to it, which is fine. I'm good with that. It says here's, what's the account number going to be? Again, funds always start with the number 3. So we can make this anywhere between 000, 00.000 to 399,999. But we're going to make this one 300, 100. Okay? And I can tell the system that it has sub-funds if necessary, and then it will allow me to add the sub-funds after this. But again, based on time, we're not going to do that. Click Add this fund. It immediately pops up and asks the question, will there be income accounts for the general fund? And of course there will be. Now folks, once basically the assumption on this is that you've got your chart of accounts written down on a piece of paper, or written out on paper, or that it's in a spreadsheet from Excel or something. You're not limited to just adding the accounts during this wizard. You can always add the more accounts to the chart of accounts, including funds, after we're through the chart of accounts wizard. This is just the initial setup phase for our basic chart of accounts when we're setting it up for the first time. So we're going to call this first one General Tithes and Offerings. And again, it's an account number that starts with a 4, 00, 100. Add account. It allows me to continue adding income accounts, rental property income. Basically it just allows me ad nauseum to go ahead and add, income accounts to my general fund, at least initially based on what I have as a setup. Okay? Pledge offering. Let's do 4105 and add account. Again, I can always go back in and add more income accounts to any fund or any expenses to any fund after I'm done. When I'm done with the income accounts for the general fund, I would simply click Finished with Income Accounts for General Fund. It asks, will there be expense accounts for the general fund? And of course I'm going to say yes, gas expense, and I would just continue to add my, my expense accounts, at least that I have for my general fund initially, until I'm finished adding those, so I'm just adding some here just to kind of show you how it's done. And I would just continue adding the expense accounts to the general fund in exactly the same manner. Okay, we'll add one called Senior Pastor Salary. We'll make this one 00250. And again, the process just continues until I'm done, and I click Finish with Expense Accounts for General Fund. Okay? So the next pop-up we're going to get is it's going to say, would we like to add another fund? So if I do have other funds, which most churches generally will, I would set up my building fund or my mission fund, or my, youth or music or whatever funds you're wanting to set up on your chart of accounts. You would just continue this process. And as you add each progressive fund, it will also ask, are there income and expenses for this fund? And then if once we say no on this, it's basically, again, done with the fund portion with income and expenses as part of the setup process of the chart of accounts. So we're going to click no. But it basically is done the exact same way when you're adding funds. Then, you add the fund with its successive, or subsequent income and expense accounts before moving on and adding the next fund. Okay? So we're going to click no. So then, if you happen to have the accounts receivable module or add-on for Church Windows, it basically wants you to set up, the accounts receivable add-on. So it's wanting you to set up an account number for that. The ledger assets, so we're going to click Set Account Number. Then it pops up and says, do you want to add any receivable clients? Like it's going to ask us under accounts payable and liabilities, it does give us the option to say continue without adding accounts receivable clients. But if I do want to add a client name, it is as simple as just clicking in here and typing in the name of the respective receivable client. And I would just continue to add those in that way. So when I'm done, I would click Finished with Accounts Receivable Clients. Now it asks us to set up other asset accounts, so accounts that the church owns. So we're going to call this Huntington Bank Checking. So again, assets always represent accounts the church owns, checking accounts, savings accounts, investments, money market accounts, CDs, fixed assets. Again, anything the church owns would be considered an asset. And again, we can set up sub-accounts for these as well. Click on Add Account. We'll call the next one Fifth Third Savings. If I could type today. And again, notice how I'm specifically adding these based on the actual financial institution they're held with. I mean, while they may represent your funds, they're not. They're assets. They're the accounts that the church owns. Okay? And again, I can always add more assets after I'm done. We're finished with this chart of accounts wizard function. Finished with asset accounts. It then pops up and asks us to set a main ledger liability for our accounts payable. So we're going to label this one something like, again, 290,000. And set account number. Same way that I did with my accounts receivable, it will allow me to enter my accounts payable vendors if I wish. My electric company, add account. Again, whomever we're paying or whoever we owe money to, we're going to enter here. Or that we're paying, Columbia Gas. Add account, and the process goes on until, again, it says we're finished with accounts payable vendors. Okay? Once we click on that, it asks us, would we like to set up other liability accounts? And if you own things like, church windows payroll, definitely we would want to say yes to this so we could set up our, say, 941 taxes, the payable account for that. Any other liabilities for things like loans, even pass-through accounts, pass-through monies, things like that. Anything, again, where money is received or paid out or owed to somebody or to some other organization or business is going to be set up as a liability account. So I would just type in and I would enter my state taxes. Account number 2110010. Add account. I would put in loan payable to 20000, etc., and I would continue to add liabilities until I'm done. Again, finished with adding liability accounts. Okay? Now we're basically done with the chart of accounts wizard at this point, folks. It's allowed us to go in and set up those accounts. It's now saying you may now enter accounts at will or go to the Set Beginning Balances button. Please use the buttons at the top of the screen to navigate. So all we do is simply close out of the chart of accounts window. Okay, and I kind of went through those other last pages really quickly, but folks, it really is just kind of follow the bouncing ball. Okay, literally as long as you're doing that. And if you happen to go through and you go, oh, I forgot to add an account, don't worry about it. Just get through the chart of accounts wizard. Then you can go back up to something like manage accounts up here, accounts plus minus, and go into any one of your account types here. Let me kind of get out my highlighter and steer some focus right here. And I can add more accounts after I'm finished. So again, you're not limited to what the accounts are adding during the chart of accounts wizard. You can always add more accounts later on. Okay? But after the chart of accounts is entered, the next and final step is to go into manage accounts and set our beginning balances, basically our balance sheet totals. So what you would want to do is open up this setup chart of accounts window and enter the beginning balances for your accounting year. In most cases, like in this case, we wouldn't be able to get those entered until we had our final totals from our balance sheet as of December 31st of 2017. So we can just, let this window, close and continue to work in here. Now, we're not going to post any transactions because we're in 18, okay? But one of the things I'd like to show folks is every time I open my accounting now, it's going to pop up and remind me, hey, you've got beginning balances to enter, and finalize, So, to enter the beginning balances, you would just enter the enter the beginning balances here just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, other way around. I got it wrong. So here, we've got our balance sheet totals. Here are our debits and credits. Those totals have to equal at some point or balance. But in the meantime, until I do, I can just enter these balances as I have them and just save them and only finalize the beginning balances when I'm ready. Generally somewhere between when we are working in the new year and after maybe we've reconciled the software with our bank statements for maybe the first couple of months. Okay? It is, the beginning balances are always a little tricky because they're reconciled or statement balances. They're not statement balances. They're reconciled or register balances. There's an option in the software where you can enter checks that were recorded or posted in your prior system but had not cleared the bank as of, the first day that you begin using Church Windows accounting. But the balances will just continue to sit here as open and unfinalized until you're ready to click Finalize Beginning Balances, which you would have to do sometime in 2018, or you'd want to do sometime in 2018. The system will require it at some point too. Okay, so it is 20 minutes after, folks. That is a really quick kind of whirlwind tour around the Chart of Accounts wizard. Again, there's perhaps a lot more detail than we had time to cover in the workbooks themselves. Again, it may be a reason why you want to purchase or look at those workbooks. If you have questions, please let us, please call us through support. We'll certainly be happy to look at that. Let me see what questions we have here. I'm new to CW, but just pick numbers off the top of your head, or does CW start you off with the first number? Yeah, no, Mildred, you design your chart of accounts and their account numbers. It always starts with that leading digit, but as I said, if assets with a 6-digit account number start with the number 1, you have a choice of any number you want to set up between 100.000 and 199.999. So yeah, you construct those. Church Windows does not. Again, folks, you've got a sample chart of accounts at our website. If again this is new to you, I strongly encourage you to pay a visit to the Church Windows website. Let me point this out under Support Center. We click right here under our search for. It takes a minute to load the page here, folks. It's a very busy page. And if I just type in the keyword sample here under the search for and type search, it should reveal a sample chart of accounts right there. Okay? It's there 24/7 for you to look at. Do you go back to Wizard to add accounts later? No, Michelle, you go up to Manage Accounts at the top left and Accounts Plus Minus right here. Accounts Plus Minus. Let me get out my highlighter again right here, right below Manage Accounts. There's a couple ways you can add accounts, but this is generally quickest and easiest. So then you would click on Accounts Plus Minus. Then we've got Assets, AR Clients, Liabilities, Vendors, Accounts Payable, Vendors, etc., Fund, Income, and Expense. So you click on that. It then opens up and asks you to choose the fund, or if we wanted to add more funds, we would simply click on Fund, and allows us to set up and add more funds with their subsequent income and expenses. Okay? Oh, well, thank you, Mildred. We appreciate it. Yeah, we really are trying to do a better job of making the information out there due to the added complexity in the software. Make it more readily available for folks where maybe they don't have to contact support. When to expect new version, I'm being asked. Gloria, we do not have a firm release date. It's still in beta testing now. We're working on version 20 to get it out as quickly as humanly possible. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have any other further information. You're most welcome, Michelle. Thank you. We hope it's been helpful. All right, folks. I know that folks have kind of been diving out here pretty quickly. Exactly. Got to get as many of those bugs out as we can of the new version. All right, folks. Well, if you have questions, please contact support 800-533-5227. We're certainly happy to help, and we'll look forward to seeing folks at a future Church Windows webinar event. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. And thank you so much. All righty. Have a good day. Bye-bye.